What's up, party people? It's KeysDAN with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live and in living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Famous? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time. DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you could have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Are you not entertained? Let me entertain you. Today on the program, speaking of entertainment, I have Glen Cain of Big Records. Oh, you know Glen Cain. You've heard of Glen Cain. You've probably been to a Glen Cain show. Yeah, Glen Cain and the Real Country. That's the name of his band. And you're going to get to know the man in front of that band in the next few minutes. So stick around. This week's shows, on Friday night, I will be at my regular public show, the Friday night dance party, video dance party, karaoke jam at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. Yeah, 8 p.m. until 12:30 in the a.m. They got a full bar. The kitchen's open, pool tables. They got a pool tournament on Friday nights. So if you want to try your hand at playing pool and possibly make some money while you're doing it, come on out to the Rab, Conway, Arkansas. Always a good time. It's a little concert starring each and every one of you. If you sing in the shower, if you sing in the car, if you sing into your hairbrush in the bedroom, you could sing on stage right next to yours truly at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. Oh, my goodness, and try the food. It's delicious. They have been really updating their menu since the fine folks from the Italian restaurant bought the place. So, yeah, new management, fairly new. I guess they've had it for a few months now, so it's really getting back into a groove, and they've redecorated a little bit. Come see the Rab. If you haven't been to the Rab in Conway, Arkansas in a while, come on out. Check it out. It's a good time. It's a real good time. And then on Saturday, I have a wedding. But unless you're invited, you cannot come. Only reason I mention it, because I enjoys my weddings. Oh, always a good time. So happy to be a part of people's big days. So good. People just having a good time, smiling. Yeah. I'm just happy that I get to be with people on their best days, birthday parties and anniversaries and even corporate events, when the boss wants to give you a how do you do, you did a good job, a little pat in the back. Good job. I get to be a part of that, and I appreciate that so much. Thank you. Still doing it after all these years. Still crazy after all these years. All right, that's enough intro. Let's get into it with Glen Cain, Big Records, Mr. Big Records. I got him on Skype, so if you're listening to the audio version, I encourage you to check out the video version on my YouTube page, youtube.com/user/KeysDAN. Skyping Glen Cain of Big Records now. There he is. Okay.
There we go.
Glen Cain, Mr. Big Records. I've been talking to some of the people that you promote over there at Fit Big Records, and I'm kind of excited to be talking to the man, the legend, the top of the heap, the guy who started it all. I guess president of Country Music Division, Big Records. Are you the one that started it all, or tell me about Glen Cain?
Actually, Mark Rosner started the entire company with Big Records. And I came on board as an artist, and it was pretty evident to me as I was with him that Mark and the people that he had were really fantastic people, but their background was primarily in rock and roll, and more even in heavy rock, heavy metal, and that kind of thing. And so I mentioned the fact one day that it's a fantastic operation, but you don't know a whole lot about country music, and it's an entirely different world than rock and roll. And I said, you really need to maybe find somebody that can step in and help you from the country aspect, that understands the business and what have you from country music. Well, and one of these days I will learn to keep my big fat mouth shut.
You got yourself into a whole lot of work is what happened.
got myself into a whole lot of work. But I
Yeah.
tell you, they're a fantastic group of people. They're very, very energetic. They're very dedicated. The label is growing like crazy, and we're bringing some country artists on board now. Some people that I know and some up and coming people. So it's going to develop very, very nicely.
Yeah, I mean, anybody that goes over to bigrecords.world, you're going to see there's a spot there under the contact for Mark Rosner, and now I see that he's the man that started it all. And if you're into rock and roll and that's what you live and breathe, and you want to associate with people like that, and what you did, obviously, when you came into the fold, was you diversified a bit. There's more to life than just rock and roll music. I know I don't play a lot of instruments. I don't play much of an instrument. I've had guitars and pianos, and I can't play a lick. But what I can do is play the music for the people. Being on the radio and being, having the online radio and being a club DJ. So my job is to play your music to get more ears out there and hopefully get, more record sales and money in your pocket, so you can keep doing this thing, this show business, which the money can be good, but the work's not steady. It's always a hustle. But you could have come in and lived your whole life being an artist. I'm guessing primarily country artist. You got the cowboy hat in a lot of the pictures that you have out there on the interweb. But you could have lived your life making the music, but now you got to a certain age and you said, now I'm going to help the next generation out. Is that the story? Is that what happened?
Well, it's kind of a combination of the two. I mean, I still perform. I still have the Real Country Band. We, we travel. We go anywhere we can, do shows anytime we can. But I was very fortunate in my life coming on. I met some really good people in this business. Number one standout, Conway Twitty. I traveled around the country for quite a while with Conway, and he taught me, he showed me a lot. He didn't have to. He was a star. He didn't have to take me under his wing and teach me anything, but he did. Merle Haggard, Waylon Jennings, these guys were at the top of the heap, but they all knew that somebody helped them get there. And so they weren't opposed to helping somebody else. And I've got a couple of young people now that my rhythm guitar player in my band is 15 years old. He's the son of my lead guitar player. Got an amazing singing voice. We just had everybody down to Pigeon Forge in March for the North American Country Music Awards. And Tyler won in his age category, the 15 to 17 category, or 13, whatever it was, to 17-year-old category. He won Male Vocalist and Entertainer of the Year. And then a young man from Wyoming, Sean Hunter Keller, as he goes by. We entered him into the 17 to 21 age group, and he won Male Vocalist and Entertainer of the Year in his group. So it's helping bringing these people on because they answer the question that the Possum asked a few years ago in his big hit song, who's going to fill their shoes? Because we're not all going to be around forever. Somebody has to step forward and carry this forward. And these are young people who embrace traditional country music.
Glen
and
Cain,
that's where I come from.
Yeah, it sounds like you have the makings of a good boss, a good leader, a good boss surrounds himself with people that are as good or better than him. And it looks like you are surrounding yourself with a team that is going to kind of continue the legacy that you started all these years ago. And I don't even know how long ago you started. It's funny you mentioned Conway Twitty. When I moved to Conway, Arkansas from Miami, Florida, from the Florida Keys, one of the first things I heard was that Conway Twitty got his name from Conway, Arkansas. And I know part of it, and then Twitty, Texas. Then I looked, and there's a YouTube video out there where he's on a talk show, and he did confirm that. And I'm guessing, can you confirm that?
I can confirm that he did it from a road atlas, and just happened to look. And as everybody knows who knows Conway really well, his real name was Harold Jenkins. And when he got started early in his career, he decided, kind of rightfully so, Harold Jenkins really didn't have that sound for the stage and for the records. And so he looked at a road atlas, and there was Conway, Arkansas, and there was Twitty, Texas, and it was Conway Twitty. And very, very few people ever got away with, once he did that, ever got away with really calling him Harold, except his wife and his kids.
Well, Glen Cain, you mentioned the Atlas, and this is primarily a learning podcast. So I have a few young listeners. Kids, an Atlas is your Google Maps on paper. Okay, kids, paper is what you used to write things down on before you can get your app on your phone to write things down for you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's what us old timers really used.
I miss that. I miss looking at maps, being that guy that was going cross town, cross country, looking at a map. And that was, going, I guess, AAA. And this portion of the podcast brought to you by AAA. Are they even a thing still? But I remember when I was going on a trip, I would get a triptych from AAA, and you can go, it's kind of a book of instructions with the road maps, step by step, how to get there. And that's how you had to do it. Oh my goodness, I love maps. I do. I had a map on my wall when I was a kid. So you're from West Virginia. West by God, Virginia, from what I've heard. Tell me about young Glen Cain in West Virginia while I got you on the line here.
Well, I grew up on a big cattle farm in West Virginia. Been around country music all of my life. My dad's oldest sister was married to a professional guitar player, and was a really interesting story family thing that he started out in Beckley, West Virginia on a radio station playing guitar for a young man by the name of James Dickens, who later became known as Little Jimmy Dickens. And Jimmy got the call to go from Beckley to Nashville, invited my uncle to go with him, and my uncle said, well, no, this is really my home, my state. Nashville's a hit and miss thing, Jimmy, so you go to Nashville and I'll stay here. He went down to Huntington, West Virginia, went to work on a radio station down there with a gentleman by the name of Harold Hawkins, who later became known as Hawkshaw Hawkins. Hawkshaw gets the call to go to Nashville. Tells my uncle, said, come and go with me. Nah, this is my home. And he goes to Charleston, goes to work on WCHS radio with a man by the name of Woodrow Wilson Sabine, whose nickname was Red. And so he starts playing with Red Sabine. Now, my family, the tie with Red Sabine is more than just my uncle, because Red Sabine's wife, Norma, was my dad's high school sweetheart before Red ever met her and married her.
You wonder how small this world is. It really is tight. And do all roads, no matter what, do all roads of country music and music in general, do they all lead to Nashville? Because it seems like that's where everybody ends up. Little Jimmy from West Virginia, from Bolt, West Virginia, ends up in Nashville, Tennessee, living his life out, doing the country music. And where do you find yourself nowadays?
Well, actually, I didn't move to Nashville. I was in Nashville for a while. I now live in north central Michigan, about 25 minutes from Traverse City. My band all lives in the Michigan area. But they all kind of migrated there from other places. My lead guitar player, Luke Gitchell, who is the North American Country Music Association Instrumentalist of the Year, worked for 3 years with Dolly Parton. My drummer worked with T.G. Shepherd and Jerry Lee Lewis. So that's the secret to my success. I'm not that good, but the guys backing me up are terrific. So,
hey, I already mentioned it. You're a great leader, man. You surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. That's how big business works, man. That's how any business works. If you're the boss, all you have to do is delegate. And if you have people that you can delegate to, you can't do it all by yourself. You need to have a team that you surround yourself with. And I know that we've already kind of glossed upon this internet thing, this social media thing. And, you have to be a presence on social media. And here, I find your Facebook page. It's got a lot of good info on there. You're promoting all the country artists that you're identifying yourself with, and so much more. It looks like you just love, in general, music and making sure that people get more ears on said music. But you not only, man, you brush with greatness. When you brush with greatness, some of that greatness is going to rub off on you. So Glen Cain, I've heard good things about you. Miss Nene said, I got to talk to you because you've been around the block a few times and you got stuff to impart. And I could see that. I could hear that. How did you get to Michigan? My goodness, from West Virginia to Michigan. I spent about 2 months ago, I spent a day or two in Detroit, and let me tell you, that town is blight, urban blight. Yeah, are you how close are you to Detroit?
Oh, I'm probably 4 hours from Detroit. I'm 2 hours north of Grand Rapids.
Okay.
I'm over on the western side of the state.
Okay.
But I migrated there. It's really kind of funny. I mean, I went to college, West Virginia University, went on a football scholarship. And while I was there, I met some guys and had a band. And I just kind of sat in with them one night jamming and ended up being their lead vocalist. And we developed from there. And then I had taken advanced ROTC in college, so I got a commission in the Army. And left, had to go do my active duty, and I got a regular Army commission, not a reserve commission, because I was a distinguished military student, distinguished military graduate. So I ended up with a regular Army commission. Started out with the 82nd Airborne, went to Ranger School, went to Fort Bragg, went through the Special Forces Training Qualification Course, ended up with a Green Beret, and was a Green Beret officer. Came back after a couple of tours of Vietnam, and started playing around with some bands and met a couple of guys who worked with Conway Twitty. And they said Conway was looking for somebody who could handle security and do some other things. And so I got the job and worked that into being able to sing occasionally and write some songs and worked that up. And then I went over and opened a few shows for Merle Haggard, opened some shows for Waylon Jennings. And then I got married, had a couple of kids, got out of the business. So, and I was out of the business for a long time. And then when Merle Haggard passed away, Sirius XM Radio had a memorial service for Merle and said, anybody who knew Merle or had funny stories or anything related to Merle, they would call in. Well, I called in and talked to Dallas Wayne, the disc jockey, and said, I'm going to be the only person you probably talked to today who had a one-on-one, impromptu, a cappella concert from Merle Haggard. And he said, well, I got to hear this story. So I said, well, it's real simple. It was 1976. We were working the Memorial Field House in Huntington, West Virginia. And because I'm from West Virginia, I had come in early, visited my parents. And then I took my dad's pickup and drove down to the field house. He was coming down later with Mom in the car, and he was going to take his pickup back. So I get down, Merle and them were coming in on the bus. Merle gets off of the bus, and he says, where do you buy booze around here? And I said, well, West Virginia at the time, it was an ABC state. I said, you got to go to the state store. Well, do you know where there is one? I said, yeah, there's one about 3 miles from here. He said, well, would you mind making a liquor run? And I said, no, I really, whatever you want. Merle reaches in his pocket, pulls out his money clip, and hands me two $100 bills. Now, we're talking 1976. This is going to be one heck of a party. He says, I drink Dickel, and this one drinks this, and this one drinks that, and whatever you want, whatever. So I take off, go to the liquor store. I come back, and I got this whole big cardboard box full of bottles of booze. Get out of the pickup, pick it up, and start walking toward the bus. Merle sees me coming, knows my background, so he turns around and he starts singing the Ballad of the Green Berets. Only instead of singing Fighting Soldiers from the Sky, Fearless Men Who Jump and Die, Merle's singing Fighting Soldier from the Sky, you drop that booze, you're going to die. So,
Glen Cain, man.
I'm telling Dallas Wayne this story, and everybody has a good laugh, and he got done. He said, you said your name's Glen Cain. And I said, yes. And he said, you used to work with Conway Twitty. And I said, yes, I did. He said, well, I have somebody here in the studio who knows you, and they want to talk to you. And I'm like, okay. So turns out that it was Paula Nelson, Willie's daughter, Paula. And she goes, you're still in the business, right? And I go, no. I said, Paula, I haven't been in the business for years. Mm-hmm. Well, what happened? I said, well, the usual story, got married, had kids, got divorced, so, and she said, well, do you still have any songs that you wrote, or did you get rid of all of them? I said, well, I got a few. She said, well, do me a favor, make me a demo disc and send it down to me in Austin, Texas. And I said, okay, why do I want to do that? And she's like, well, just humor me, do it, it'll be fun. Okay. So I made a little demo disc, mailed it down to her in Austin with some cover songs and a couple of originals that I'd written. 3 weeks later, I get a call. She says, when could you be in Austin, Texas? And I'm like, why would I want to be in Austin, Texas? She said, well, I've got a thing worked out where you can come down, you can record. And I'm like, well, okay, I haven't been in a recording studio for umpteen years, but I'll give it a try. So I went down and met her nephew-in-law, who just actually happened to be from Michigan, but he's married to Willie's granddaughter. And he said, we're going to do this. We're going to do a little 5-song EP. Well, I'd been out of the business long enough. Somebody had to tell me what the hell an EP was. It's like, I know what an LP is. I know what a CD is, but what the devil's an EP? Mm-hmm. So anyway, we recorded a little 5-song EP. And supposed to be 4 songs. And then Paul and I were going to do a duet, but there was a conflict. She couldn't get there, and we had the studio book. So it's like, anybody got a 5th song? Well, I happen to have one. There's a great story about it, because it's my most popular record, and I'll tell you that story in a minute. But anyway, we get into this thing. So we made the record, got done, and I said, well, that was fun. What do we do now? So Matt Hubbard, the producer, the grandson-in-law, said, well, there's a little promotion company. He said, I think they charge you maybe $250 for a record. They'll put it out to some radio companies and see what happens to it. Well, what the heck? We've come this far. So laid out some money and put out a song that I had written called Born to Ramble. And it went to number 8 on the New Music Weekly charts. And I'm like, okay, well, let's put about Hold Back the Dawn, which is the song I was going to tell you about. It went to number 6. So it's like, okay, I got 2 top 10 records. I don't have a band. I don't have a manager. I don't have a booking agent. But I guess I'm back in the music business.
Yeah. And just like that, they suck you back in. Man,
just like that.
That whole set of stories, that whole last little chain, chock full of information. Man, I can tell that when you do something, you don't do it halfway. You started off as an athlete, a footballer. What position did you play in football?
Well, I was a linebacker.
Big old boy linebacker. So you could run fast and you could hit hard.
235 and ran a 4.5 40.
Yeah. You don't do anything halfway. Then you go into the Army. No, you're not going to go halfway. You're not going to be anything in the back. You're not just going to join any crew. I'm not even in the Army. I have nothing to do with the Army. But I know the 82nd Airborne is that they do movies about that. They write songs about that. I mean, do you have still long-lasting relationships and friendships with the people that were, in your crew? And I mean, you had to have seen things you shouldn't have seen and been to places you probably shouldn't have been.
I still have some good friends from time in the Army, but with me, it was, if people who are listening who know military history and know anything about the history of World War II, my father was one of the original Army Rangers when they formed the Rangers in Ireland in 1942, the unit they called Darby's Rangers. My dad was one of the originals, fought through North Africa, Sicily, Italy. When the Rangers were wiped out or virtually wiped out at Anzio, my dad was captured in the Battle of Cisterna and was a prisoner of war for 18 months. So it was kind of ordained that I would at least try to become a Ranger and what have you, and go on and kind of try to follow in his footsteps, if nothing else, just to show him that I could do it too. But, I was very proud of him and of that, that generation. I don't know that this country will ever see another generation like the one that was around for World War II.
It's called the greatest generation. The best music came out of there. The hardest times, the best of times, the worst of times. The thing that movies and stories. There's men were men and women were women. There's a certain kind of person that comes out of there. I mean, I love the stories from my grandma and my grandpa. I'm 53 years old, but I still. I'm so happy that I still have my grandma with me, and she still comes up with some stories. But I looked up Darby's Rangers. Like I said, there's stories made about it. 1958 film about Darby's Rangers. I encourage you to check that out. That's, man.
Starred James Garner. Yeah.
James Garner. Oh, my goodness. Mr. Rockford himself. Oh, yes. No, and that's one I have to check out. I've been on a kick watching classic movies that I haven't seen before, so I'm very excited to check that one out as well. But man, not only it was in the blood. It was a family business. Dad had it, the willingness to serve and help and protect others, and then you had it. You go into the 82nd Airborne, jumping out of perfectly good airplanes. I mean, how often did you have to do that?
Well, I think if I remember right, my log, I had 160 some static line jumps, 18 free falls, and 11 halo jumps.
Halo. That's a high altitude, low open. This is a specialized division. Because if you start, what is it, over 10,000 feet or over 5,000 feet? What's the altitude on a halo jump?
25,000, 30,000 feet.
And these kids are playing Halo. This is a game that you can play on your video system. Oh, look, I'm a paratrooper. Oh, look, I'm pressing buttons. Hold on, let me get my little controller here. I'm pressing buttons. Look, I'm a Halo guy. I can jump out of an airplane. No. You didn't play the little video game. You jumped out of an airplane to help to protect freedom. Something that you were told to do, you were trained to do. Man, I commend you. That's fantastic. And you made it through alive.
We kind of had an inside story about that. There were two of us of all the cousins and what have you that served in the military, and almost all of my family did. But only two of us were actually airborne qualified, were paratroopers. And the big story was our other cousin was an aircraft mechanic, because we jumped out of him because we knew who worked on it.
Jokes. I used to wear paratrooper boots in high school because I thought they looked cool. They look like combat boots for those people. For you, my loyal listener, they look like combat boots, but they're round at the front. I guess so you can land on the ball of your feet and not hurt yourself too bad? Is that what the paratrooper shoes for?
Yeah, usually the PLF, a parachute landing fall, but mostly those Corcoran boots were designed like that because their round toes are real easy to spit shine.
Okay. And that's very important in the armed services, in the armed forces. Make sure that you're walking tall, you're looking good. Man, that's I
It
commend
was
you.
then. It was then. I tell these new troopers every time I see one of them, they're wearing these buffed out tan boots. And I tell them, I say, you have any idea how many hours I spent spit shining boots?
And it's actual spit shining. It's not.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're spitting in a cloth and getting a little boot black and actually getting that thing to shine right. Man, I want to see
You had at
myself.
least you had at least 3 pair. You always kept at least 3 pair. You had a pair that you wore in the field all the time, so they didn't have to look quite as good. Then you had a pair that was shined up that you wore for garrison duty, and you're walking around, whatever. And then you had your inspection and parade boots.
I thought that was only in the movies, and there it is, man. There's little secrets behind how to get through an inspection, a white glove inspection. Have that uniform that's all pressed and neat at the top of your at the foot of your bed there, and in your locker.
Yep.
Oh man.
Yep.
You're giving people gems, Glen Cain. But I guess that's a long way from music. When you were over in Vietnam, did you have a guitar with you? Were you able to hone your craft? Did you have any downtime?
I didn't have a guitar. It's really kind of funny because I don't play a guitar. I'm really trying to get down to where I learned to play a guitar, and I finally discovered the secret to being able to learn to play the guitar. But I'd buy these little cheap guitars, $85 guitar, $100 guitar, set it over in the corner. Well, I only got $100 in it. It made any difference whether I learned to play it or not. So I finally bought a Zager, Zager, which it's a custom-made guitar. And anybody who knows musical history probably recognizes the fact that Zager was part of a singing duo back in the late 60s that had a song called In the Year 2525. And now he lives in Lincoln, Nebraska, makes guitars. And so I bought one of his guitars. They are not cheap. They are not even inexpensive. And so now I figure I got so much money invested in this plastic thing. Now I got to learn to play it.
Yeah, this is a $2,500 guitar you got in your hands.
Yep, exactly. So now I need to learn to play it to justify the fact that I bought it.
Yes, sir. I mean, when I had some cheap guitars. I had a Squire Strat, which is like $100, like you're saying, and then a Ibanez 120. That was also about $100 or so. And I learned some power chords, and enough for 2-finger Ted, but nothing I could take out on the streets and play. But you had the gift of singing. Where did that start?
Well, it's something I always wanted to do. It's funny. I tell people, when I was a kid, my dad bought a Silvertone hi-fi from Sears Roebuck. And my mother had an antique dresser that had a big round mirror in the center of it. And I would take that Silvertone and put on 5 or 6 45 records on the changer, Johnny Cash, Stonewall Jackson, Johnny Horton. And then I would take Mom's hairbrush and pretend it was a microphone and stand in front of the mirror and practice my stage moves when I was about 8, 9 years old. So it's something I always wanted to do. And I just kind of, when I got to college and got in with that band, it's like, I can do this. People kind of actually like this. Somebody asked me one time, said, they pay you for singing like that? And I said, well, I don't know if they pay me for singing. They pay me for stopping, but they pay me.
Well, I mean, for my loyal listener, once again, a Silvertone, that's the record player you're talking about, right?
Right.
Yeah, the one that
they called it a hi-fi. That was before all this stereo stuff came out. It did have a detachable speaker that you could take loose just off to the side. So you had like the main speaker on the box and a little speaker off to the side. But it was in its day, it was the thing. I mean, my dad always saw that we had that kind of stuff. We had I think we probably had the first television in our part of the country, and we had that hi-fi. He always saw that we had that kind of stuff, and we always did it. And I came from a family that when they were growing up, my mom and them, and that was their entertainment. Was they would get together in the house on Friday night, Saturday night, listen to the Grand Ole Opry and play music and dance. That was it.
Well, you see, this is another thing. You're teaching, you're giving people gems. You grew up through technology. There's technology. You in the start, I guess you started with radio and some television, and then going further, way before computers, way before getting stuck on the internet. You were going outside and playing, riding bikes and doing your thing. I'm sure you had a group of friends in West Virginia. What kind of trouble did you get into when you were a kid anyway?
Well, I don't think there are any outstanding warrants still around. So, we did some pretty crazy stuff. I can remember taking a neighbor's hay wagon and taking it apart on a Halloween and hauling it all up to the roof of his barn and reassembling it across the roof of his barn. Of course, then a couple of days later, we went around and took it down for him. I mean, we didn't leave it up there, but I can remember getting shot out of a neighbor's apple tree.
No, but
that was really funny. That was funny because he would have probably given us the apples if we would ask for, but it was more fun to try to take them.
Yeah.
And so my buddies were on the ground picking up the apples, but I could climb like a monkey, so I was up in the tree. And he came out and he saw them on the ground. He didn't realize that everybody up in the tree. And he had an old 12-gauge shotgun, but he had a shotgun shell that was loaded with, for those of us who grew up in that area and grew up in the hills, was loaded with rock salt and bacon rind.
Yeah. Yeah.
He cuts loose shooting over top of them thinking he was going to scare them, but he shot into the apple tree and shot me right out of the apple tree.
Oh, yeah. He scared you all right.
Rock salt and bacon rind. Well, and let me tell you, that stuff burns.
Well, Glen Cain, you just let me know that you don't know how to do pranks. You were supposed to take that tractor apart, put it on his roof, and leave it there and walk away. No, you're not supposed to be a good boy and go back on the roof, get his tractor down, and put it back together. Did you get caught? Did you get busted? Did your dad make you go back up there, or did you do that out of the kindness of your heart?
We did it because it was it was the proper thing to do. It was funny to take it up there and put it up there and leave it up there for a couple of days, but he was an older gentleman and go around and take it down for him. But I can remember probably the worst thing my dad ever did to me. I was about maybe 5, 6 years old, and we stopped at a neighborhood store in the town, and actually the store owner my dad had gone to high school with, and we're driving home, and Dad looks over, and I'm eating a Hershey's almond bar, and Dad goes, "Where'd you get the candy bar?" And I said, "Brother's store." "Well, how'd you pay for it?" And I kind of got this look on my face, and he does a U-turn right in the middle of the road, drives back to Brother's store, makes me get out of the car, walk into the store, and walk up to the counter and confess to Brother that I had stolen a candy bar. And so the next Saturday, I spent an entire day stocking shelves and what have you in Brother's store to pay for what at that time was a nickel candy bar.
Yeah, you had a lesson learned. Yeah, that's exactly. We said it at the same time. You had a lesson learned. This is what kids need these days. They need to go out, get a part-time job, while they're going to school, as long as it doesn't affect their studies too much. I know when I was a kid, what I got for my 9th birthday? A job. I was cutting lawns, trying to make some candy bar money. And I think I was pretty successful because I ended up being a fat boy. Too many candy bars. No, but the kids gotta get jobs. They can't just sit around and do not much. Go outside and play. I think the children nowadays are living in fear. Nobody wants to go outside and play anymore. Get dirty, get cut up a little bit. Go find some broken glass. Am I being irresponsible?
Yeah, really.
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
You were talking about rock salts. I know we had BB gun fights in the Everglades when I was growing up out there in Florida. So one pump only, below the waist. One pump only.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shooting slingshots at each other, and just causing, boys got to be boys, and even girls got to be girls, but, you got to, it develops those relationships that you have had for years. When you got into the armed services, I'm sure that helped you develop relationships with other people, with other fellas, and long-lasting relationships, and it carried over into your bands. Having a band, getting a band together and keeping them together, it's hard work. A lot of times solo artists are solo artists because they just can't get a band that can go cross country or even cross town to go play a show, because they got families once they get to a certain age. Even you had to stop playing music for a little while because you had a family. How'd that go? How'd the family turn out? How boys, girls, I guess, you already mentioned divorce. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
But I mean, how'd the family go?
Yeah, that turned out, but I've got 3 boys and 2 girls.
How they doing?
And, they all do really well. They all have good lives. They all have good jobs. None of them are a musician or want to even be a musician. Now, my grandson, I have 9 grandchildren. I have 8 granddaughters and 1 grandson. So, needless to say, he's a drummer. And I've told him, I said, Ruben, if Jerry's not able to go play a show, I'll take you and you can play drums for me. And I get this weird look, and then all I get is, Grandpa, you don't play my kind of music.
Yeah, but all you need is a good backbeat. Play some skin. It doesn't have to be 4/4. I don't know much about country music. Is it still 4/4? Or is it like, I don't know, keeping time?
Pretty much. I mean, real traditional country music is at 3 chords. Whatever happened to 3 chords and the truth? So it's like almost every major country song's got 3 chords. If you know those 3 chords, you got it made. You got C, D, and G. You're in pretty good shape.
Well, good. That's gems right there. That's all you need. Okay, those are the first 3 you're going to learn on your guitar, aren't you? Your $2,500 Zagger guitar. My goodness.
Yeah.
So tell me what's going on. When you had that band before, did you play primarily in West Virginia, or had you already gotten to Michigan by then?
Well, we played in West Virginia. We never made it over to Michigan. We played West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio. We were actually one of the 2 most popular cover bands in that entire area. And I parlayed that into semi-regular on the WWVA Wheeling Jamboree, and was a regular on the Mountaineer Opry and the Renfro Valley Barn Dance down in Renfro Valley, Kentucky. And we were very fortunate. We worked regular all the time, and there was only one other band in the entire area that was as popular, as close to being as popular as we were for a cover band. And so, and it just stayed. And I had started writing songs. In fact, the most popular record I have right now is a song that I told you about, Hold Back the Dawn. Mm-hmm. And I actually wrote that song, the first verse and the chorus of that song, between my junior and senior year in college.
Wow.
And I'd never done anything with it. And I love to tell the backstory because it really, when you're on stage and telling the backstory of the song, because I had met this girl my first week on campus at West Virginia University. Mm-hmm. And we dated for 3 years. We're engaged. We're going to get married. And I went back to school in between my junior and senior year. And she lived locally in Morgantown. And I called her up and asked her we'd go to a dinner and a movie. And she said, well, I'm really glad you did this because we've got some things we need to talk about. And being the astute, observant young man that I was, I said, well, does it have anything to do with the fact that you're not wearing your engagement ring? And she goes, well, yeah. So long story short, she dumped me married an Iranian medical student who became a very successful thoracic surgeon. I went back to the dorm and wrote the first verse and the chorus of this song. So we're doing the recording session. And like I said, the fifth song was supposed to be a duet with Paula Nelson and myself, which didn't work out. Mm-hmm. And Matt said, anybody got another song? I said, well, I've got one, but it's not finished. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, I've got one verse and a chorus, but I don't have a second verse. He said, well, how does it go? And so I sang it to him, and he started playing it on the piano. And as he's playing it, and people, if you go to YouTube and play the song, you can hear how it really is supposed to sound. But he was playing it, and I said, just keep playing. And he goes, why? And I just standing there, and I started this, well, all that you left me was your memory and a broken heart full of misery. I'll face tomorrow, but I'll face it alone. Loving a memory and knowing you're gone. And everybody looked at me and said, thought you didn't have a second verse. And I said, I don't. I just made that up, but maybe we can take it and make something out of it. And Matt's like, don't change a thing. So we took it, worked it up. We did the song in 2 cuts, 2 takes, and I had to cut. And it's turned out to be the most popular record that I have got. But I think most people can take that kind of a song and they can identify with it. Everybody in their life at some point or other has had a love affair go bad or whatever, and you could just kind of take it and identify with it. I mean, that's what country music really is. Traditional country music tells a story. People can relate to the song. It's not just noise or people banging on an instrument. It tells a story. It's something that people can say, I've been there. I know what that's like. I've lost a job, or I've lost a sweetheart, or I've had a wife leave me, or everybody's had something like that in their lives, and they can identify with it. It's Hank Williams called country music white man's blues.
Glen Cain, you just sent little chills up my spine. I hadn't been able to hear a lot of your music, but man, I just got a live performance right here, and you got some trill and some yodel. Can you yodel? Do you have that ability? Because you have that twang in there and a little bit of something else. How did you develop all of that?
I don't know. It just kind of comes naturally. Where'd we go?
Still here.
Oh, there we are.
Yep.
Quit touching things, Glenn. I don't know. It's always been there. I've listened to different songs and different singers, different people, and taken a little bit of what each one of them does and kind of tried to develop my own style. I remember Merle Haggard telling the story about when he was working in Buck Owens's club in Bakersfield. And Merle said, I could do every song that Hank Williams or Lefty Frizzell had ever recorded and do them just as well and sound just like them. He said, but one night I did my set, I got done, and the guy walked up to me and looked at me and he said, Merle, they've already got a Lefty and they've already got a Hank. You might want to try to just be Merle.
You better believe it. You're talking about storytelling. And you mentioned some of the greats, like Hank Williams, Merle Haggard, even Marty Robbins. That's what country music or Western music, country. What was the joke that I heard in the Blues Brothers? Oh, what kind of music you play here? Both kinds, country and Western. But country music is not country music anymore. Now country music is kind of the rockabilly. I mean, there's a few guys that are trying to really bring it back and tell a story again. But if you look, out in the West Estes town of El Paso, my senorita, oh my goodness, that kind of music that tells that story. And you're saying that Hank Williams is the white man's blues. Well, didn't he sing the Lovesick Blues?
Well, he did.
He's all about it.
He did, and that was probably his best known song. In fact, they referred to him as the Love Six Blues Boy. But the funny part about that is that was one of the few songs that Hank didn't write.
No.
Hank didn't write that song. It was actually recorded long before Hank. There was a group of black entertainers that had a big hit on it out of New York City, and then he learned it on the streets of Montgomery, Alabama, from a street singer by the name of Teacock that kind of taught Hank a lot of his stuff. And Hank always wanted to do that song, and Fred Rose really didn't want him to record it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had a recording session one day, and Fred wasn't there. And they got done, and they had done the songs that they were going to do, and they still had 30 minutes left on the recording studio time because they really gotten through the songs in pretty good shape. And Hank says, we're going to do this song. And so they did it, laid it down, and then Hank slipped it into the packet for radio. And as they say, the rest was history, because it was, and he did it that night on the Opry, did. And there's still arguments about how many. Jimmy Dickens swore up and down it was 7. There were people who said there was 9. There were some people who said it was 5. But Hank had more encores than any artist on the Opry because the audience wouldn't let him get off of the stage. It just was amazing. And it's a live radio show. You got other artists you're trying to bring on, and the audience won't let Hank leave the stage. So,
well, you're touching a little bit on American music, especially music in the South, where, the white folks and the black folks kind of stayed separate. But sometimes a white folk would hear the music of a black folk and say, that's pretty dang good, and just feel it and kind of jibe with it. And sometimes, the controversy is, did it help to bring the black folks' music to the white folks? If a white guy sang it, I think so. Hank Williams taking that song.
I think music's universal. It did a lot. It did a lot. And almost all of your early country artists, including Hank, started singing in church and singing gospel music and singing church music. And in fact, Hank and his mother actually went to a black church because there wasn't a white church close to their area. So they went to the black church. So Hank learned a lot of that black gospel music. And, it's fantastic. Those people, it's just, music is music, and people are people. It makes no difference. Skin color is just that. It's skin color. As it goes in the Army, if a guy gets shot, he bleeds red. Doesn't make any difference what color his skin is.
Oh, yeah.
And if he's in the foxhole beside you, you don't care what color he is as long as he does his job and does it right. So they, I wasn't raised that way, and I don't understand people who have that. I don't understand this dislike or distrust of somebody because they're a certain ethnic group or a certain skin color or talk with a certain accent.
Well, you were born in the right spot. The history of West Virginia is tearing off of that. You wanted to have everybody free. Make sure that freedom is free. For all, freedom for all. And West Virginia started off that way. Hey, you know what? We're going to go ahead and move over this way. What are we going to call ourselves? What are you guys called? Virginia? Well, we'll be West Virginia. Why didn't they come up with any of those other names? I know that they had other names that were in the box before they came up with West Virginia, but it's a good history. You were born in the right spot.
It was the western counties of Virginia, and it's really funny because West Virginia is considered a border state during the Civil War.
Yeah.
And it was considered somewhat of a Union state because they split away from Virginia to join the Union. But the vast majority of the state was actually Confederate.
Yeah.
But what you had, if you look at the map of West Virginia, you have the two panhandles. You have the eastern panhandle, the northern panhandle. The two population bases of the state at that time were in those two panhandles. The northern panhandle was Wheeling and the area around Wheeling. Well, if you look at that map, Wheeling is sandwiched right between Cleveland, Ohio, and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And both of those were Union states, Union cities. Then if you go over to the Eastern Panhandle, you had Martinsburg, Harper's Ferry, that area. But it's right there on the border of Maryland, and you can throw a rock and hit Washington, D.C.
Yep.
So
I'm looking at the map
here
right
you've
now.
you've got the two major population areas are heavily Union. So it's like, okay, we're going to split away. And it's the only state in the history of the United States, of all 50 states, it is the only state that was never a territory, never a republic, never anything else. It went directly from being the western counties of the state of Virginia to becoming the state of West Virginia.
Amazing.
And, so it's another one of those interesting footnotes of history, but a lot of great entertainers have come out of West Virginia. We were talking about Jimmy Dickens was from Bolt, Hawkshaw Hawkins was from Huntington, Red Savine was from around the town of Eleanor, but just out of Charleston.
Yep.
Wilma Lee and Stoney Cooper, all these big names came from West Virginia or the Kentucky area. A lot of music came out of those Appalachian mountains.
Amazing. I mean, you're giving me gems. You're giving me history. You've touched history. You've been a part of history. You're talking about Conway Twitty on the radio, and then they're saying, hey, we know you. We know you. You've worked with some of these folks. You've helped some of these folks. Mm-hmm. And here you are. I'm guessing, what do you say? You're open for a lot of these people in different shows, different festivals. This is, you've walked the walk. You've talked the talk. And now you're helping the next generation. You got a 15-year-old kid in your band, and he is learning the ways. I guess like a Jedi master. To put my nerdiness in there, you're his Obi-Wan, and you're teaching him the ways of the Jedi and how country music should be, storytelling. How long do you want to keep doing this? Forever and ever?
Well, I want to be like, probably won't be as famous or whatever, but I want to be a lot like Willie Nelson. I figure, I'll probably go out with my boots on and on stage. It's like, I know I've heard Amy and Paula say sometimes they wish their dad would slow down. They wish he would take it easier or whatever. But I tell you, if they ever stopped Willie from performing, he'd probably just die. Mm-hmm. It's what keeps the man alive. Yeah. It's what keeps you out there. It's you don't need a bottle of booze. You don't need a bunch of pills. I tell you, the greatest narcotic in the world is an audience that loves what you're doing and applauds and screams and cheers. And you look out and all of a sudden you're doing your song, and you look out and people are sitting in the audience singing with you. They know your song. They know that music. They identify with it. And there's nothing better.
No, yeah, I mean, I encourage people that are listening. I encourage my loyal listener, go see a live show. I had a chance to go see Willie the time he had a few problems with the IRS way back in the 90s, and he was doing like what we called the Free Willie tour, and he came down to Key Largo, Florida, and we saw him play. Right there in our little tiny town. You think the Florida Keys are big. There's probably 10,000 people that live in that 113-mile stretch of islands. And Key Largo, tiny. Everybody knew everybody. And here's Willie Nelson, the king, right? Just doing his thing, songwriter. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, to brush with that greatness, you're definitely going to get a few molecules of greatness and get some of that greatness power to rub off on you. You're writing songs and that are going to make people think, make people feel. That's your superpower, and you can, and not only do you write them, but you sing them as well. And I want all the best. I mean, do you have shows that are coming up real soon as we wind this thing down? Tell people where they can find you.
Well, yeah, we're working on some things and putting together some packages that we want to be doing, and trying to work out a tour down through Texas, a honky-tonk tour down through Texas. Some other shows are out there that we're trying to work on. we're not particular. We'll work anywhere. Anybody who wants to book us and hear us, we, go to Facebook and look me up, or, TikTok or any of those other things, or go to YouTube and play my music. I need the money.
Are you dancing around on TikTok? What are you doing on TikTok? Are you doing some of these dances? Hey,
well,
I'm Glen Cain.
We've got some live videos out there, some stuff that we've done, and we've got the recorded music. We're getting that out there and trying to get into these platforms. It's funny. I tell everybody this business has done an 180-degree flip-flop from what it was when I was in it before. When I was in it before, you recorded a record and you put it out and you got to play it on the radio, and you went out and did shows to promote that record. You wanted people to buy that album because you were making money off the royalties on the albums. But now with all of the electronics, and people don't have to pay to get the music, they don't have to buy the albums or any of this stuff. So now you put out these songs and hope somebody will like it well enough that they'll want to see you, because now the money is in the personal appearances. That's where you get the money, personal appearances and the merchandise, and we are putting together some T-shirts. They're probably pretty good for keeping the crows out of the corn, folks. So,
Well, a lot of times the money you make as an artist now is the merchandise. Get yourself a T-shirt, get yourself a button, get yourself a bumper sticker, buy a CD. You got to get that merchandise out there, because, this streaming thing is not where it's at. And go see a live show. I encourage my loyal listener, wherever you may live, even if you're not close to Glen Cain, go see a local live artist. They will appreciate you. And if you're anywhere near Glen Cain, you better go see one of his shows. That's for sure. Now, what's the name of your band? Is it the Glen Cain Band, or what is the name of it?
Glen Cain and Real Country.
I like that. I like that a lot. All right. Tell me a little bit about Big Records. I mean, is there anything else you want to explore, and what's in the world of Big Records, and what are you doing for them?
Well, we're expanding Big Records. We're growing. We're getting out there. If we have artists out there listening, younger audience, looking for a place to get started, or somebody to help promote you, or whatever, look me up on Facebook. Whatever, you get in touch with me. We'll set up an interview with myself and with Mark Rosner, and if it works, we'll bring you on board, and we'll try to help you get started. Everybody had to start somewhere.
Yeah.
But don't be afraid of it. If it's something you want, don't let go of that dream. It doesn't come easy, but you can make it happen. I'm a great example of that. I mean, I'm a kid that everybody thought was going to go on and be an engineer or something coming out of school, but this is what I wanted to do. This was what I felt fulfilled my life, made me feel like I was somebody that I could leave something behind. And it was really funny, because when I put out this last EP, one of the kids that's a friend of my son's called me up, and he calls me Uncle G, and he said, "Uncle G, you got a record out. That's immortality." And I said, "What?" And he said, "That's immortality." He said, "People are going to be playing that record for years and years to come." He said, "Long after you're gone, people are going to be playing that record." And, I hadn't thought about it at that point in time, but I hope it's true. I hope you leave something behind you that's good enough that people want to play it for years to come. I mean, we talked about Hank Williams, and Hank's been gone since 1953. We're talking 70 years. Hank's been gone, but he still played on every traditional country radio station and golden oldies country radio station in the world. And his songs have been recorded by everybody.
Oh, yeah.
In every genre of music.
Oh, yeah.
They have recorded Hank Williams songs. So it's
he lived hard and died young. Yeah, he lived hard and died young. Hopefully you last a little bit longer. You've been around a little bit longer, Glen Cain. And how's it feel to know that you're going to live forever through your songs? How about that?
It's a sobering thing. You kind of wonder through the years, why am I here? You know, why am I here? And then you think about, you know, if you only leave behind one song that people sing from now on, you have accomplished something. You are remembered. You know, your own reward is going to be whatever you've earned when you face judgment and earn your place. But what you leave behind and how people think of you and remember you as you leave behind, that's the legacy that you have. I laugh. Some people have called me a legend. I say, well, no, I'm not a legend because I'm not dead yet. You know, I'm just a guy who enjoys singing and enjoys entertaining people and doing something and being able to help some other artists, young artists along the way, maybe find their niche and move up. Not everybody's going to be a George Strait. Not everybody's going to be a Garth Brooks or a Dolly Parton, but you can make a lot of good music. You can entertain a lot of good people, and you can make a really decent living in this business without being a superstar.
Yeah. Yeah. I just saw today on my social media, came up on my screen, Luke Combs had tweeted something back in 2013. He said, man, nobody's giving me a break. I don't think I'm going to make it in this music business. And cut forward a few years, and he's one of the biggest names in country music right now. So, yeah, never give up, never surrender. All right, I've taken some of your time. I know you got to get back and do some other stuff besides talk to my face. And I know we only scratched the surface of the Glen Cain legend in your own time already. But give some shout-outs to people that have helped you along the way, and then we'll give some last words for the people and get on out of here. And we'll talk again soon. But Glen Cain, give some shout-outs for some people that have helped you along the way.
Well, there's just so many of them, but, you know, foremost and stand out above all the rest, Conway Twitty, who didn't even have to take the time to give me the time of day, but who took me under his wing and helped me and taught me a lot about how to work an audience and how to do a show. And I know he used to laugh and say, you know, sing to all the women in the audience. Men might go buy the tickets, but women tell them to go get them.
That's words of wisdom, man. That's good.
You know, Merle Haggard and Waylon Jennings and everybody I was ever around in this business, I learned something from. There are very few people in the business when I was coming up and learning that wouldn't take the time to at least show you something or talk to you about something or point out something. And so I try to do that same thing with young people when I meet them or work with them and take them. And if I see something they're doing well, you know, you might want to try this or you might want to do this on stage instead of doing this. And just kind of try to help them along, you know, that we're not all going to be around forever, and I want this music to live on forever. It's been around for a long time, and I want it to stay around. So, you know, all of those people, the DJs and people like yourself who give us a platform to talk and to play our music and to let people know who we are, and you people out there watching, the fans, we don't have a job if you folks don't play our music. You don't come to hear us play. If we don't have an audience or whatever, we're nothing without you, except some guy standing up there making noise on the stage. You fans are what make us what we are. We would be nowhere without you. We wouldn't be anywhere without people like Dan and what have you, who give us a platform to put ourselves out there. It's a symbiotic relationship between all of us. We all do our part to promote this business, to promote this music, and to make it live. This music is a live, breathing, living thing. And it's all these people working together who put life into it and allow it to tell a story. So, you know, go to YouTube, go to Spotify, whatever, play my music. As my buddy Bill Anderson says, if you like it, tell all your friends about it. If you don't like it, just don't say anything.
You got that right. All right, my man. Like I said, I don't want this to be the last time that we talk. I want you to come back as time progresses. If you got some shows to promote, for sure. You got a free open door here, Glen Cain. It was wonderful talking to you, for sure. You're not only brushing with greatness. I believe you are greatness, man. Just in the last hour that we've been talking, I'm starting to like you, Glen Cain. You're a good dude. You're a good guy. And you don't do anything halfway. You go all the way. And that's what people need to do. If they want something, it's not going to be handed to you. You got to get out there and get it. Go. Be the football player, be the paratrooper, be the musician. Do it. Get it all. Get everything you want. All right. I always like to finish these things off. Go ahead.
It doesn't matter if I could leave one piece of advice to anybody out there listening. It doesn't matter what it is you want to try to do or what you want to try to be. That's up to your choice. But every morning when you get up and you look yourself in the eye in the mirror and you're shaving, you're brushing your teeth, you're putting on your makeup, you're brushing your hair, whatever, just so you can look yourself in the eye in the mirror and say, I did the best that I could possibly do. I know I did the best I could possibly do. And if you do that every day, then you will succeed. You will get forward, because you have to look yourself in the eye, and you have to be able to know that you're not lying to yourself when you look yourself in the mirror and say, I know I gave it the best I could possibly do. And as long as you can do that, folks, you got the battle half won. And as Hank Williams used to say, hopefully we'll see you again. If the good Lord willing and the creeks don't rise, we'll see you again one day. But, go on Facebook, play my music, play other music. You get a chance to see a live show, my show or somebody else's show. Go see a live entertainer, support these people. Continue to tune in and support people like Dan, because they make it possible for us. We all do this together. We're all in the same canoe together, folks.
Glen Cain, I think I always finish these things off with last words for the people. I think you just gave those last words. Good job, my friend. Glen Cain, good talking to you.
My pleasure. I appreciate it.
Well, there you have it, party people. Glen Cain of Big Records and so much more. Footballer, Army Ranger, Green Beret, what? Guitar, learning the guitar, singer, songwriter, for sure, and brushing with greatness. My goodness, I think you helped out a few of those people along the way, Glen Cain. They were at a certain level when you met them, but they got a little bit of insight, and I think you rubbed off on them as much as they rubbed off on you, Glen Cain. You're a good dude, and man, I see nothing but you're just gonna keep going and training the next generation of artists, country singers, maybe, and your grandkid with the drums, he might play with you. He might come around. Grandpa, you don't play my kind of music. Well, all you need is a backbeat, and we'll get this thing going, man. The rhythm section is very important. But I digress. Glen Cain, thank you so much for being on the What Makes You Famous podcast. I appreciate you so much, and I look forward to hearing more. I'll be stalking you on your social media. Social media? There was no such thing as social media. Social media meant you called them on the telephone. You got out in the streets with a pamphlet, with a flyer. Hey, we're going to be at this place at this time. Tell your friends. Come on out. That's social media. Now you can do it with a couple clicks on your keypad, and you can tell everybody about a Glen Cain and Real Country show. All right, party people. That's it for this edition of What Makes You Famous. Now, if you, my loyal listener, if you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to give me a call, 501-470-6386, or email keysdan@aol.com. That's it for me. It's KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.